I met Claire at an airport bar. Not at a wedding, not at a high school reunion, not through a dating app. No, we met between flight delays and overpriced whiskey. She was wearing a green leather jacket, sipping an old-fashioned like it was a character test, and reading a book with no cover. That kind of mystery either ends in a novel or a lawsuit. Naturally, I sat one stool over, left one in between. That's the polite way of saying, I'm not creepy, just curious. She glanced over, smiled slightly. Are you going to ask what I'm reading? Or just keep staring like a disappointed TSA agent? I laughed. That depends. Is it steamy, tragic, or somewhere in between? All three, she said. Like a good life. Reader. I married her. That was 10 years ago. A decade of Sunday brunches, inside jokes, and a dog we named Hemingway because he was grumpy and drank from the toilet like it owed him rent. Claire had this way of making everything feel cinematic. Like even standing in line at the DMV could be a Wes Anderson short if she was narrating. To everyone on the outside, we looked like the couple who had it all figured out. Joint tax returns, matching luggage, the kind of fridge magnets you buy on anniversaries in places like Lisbon or Charleston. And I'll be the first to admit, I was proud of that. Of her. Of us. But you know what they don't show you in the Instagram version of marriage? The slow shift. The quiet recalibration. The days when your spouse starts using I more than we. When laughter becomes polite. When you start to miss someone who's sitting right across from you. I didn't catch the drift right away. Most husbands don't. We think everything's fine because no one's throwing dishes. But there were signs. Fewer spontaneous hugs. More nights where she stayed, late at work, but came home with perfect makeup. Her phone, once left face up on the couch, now lived in her purse like a vampire coffin. Locked. Sealed. Private. Still, I chalked it up to stress. Or boredom. Or the dog. Then came the gala. Claire worked in marketing for a boutique interior design firm, small enough to be cozy, fancy enough to pretend they didn't Google color palettes. She invited me to their annual fundraiser. Black tie. Silent auction. Tiny plates with food that required a decoder ring. We entered the ballroom together, but somehow we didn't stay together. She floated through the room like she owned it, introducing me as Logan, without any descriptors, no husband, no partner, not even +1. Just Logan. Like a footnote. Like someone you thank at the end of your novel because they gave you printer ink. At table 9, there was an empty seat next to her. Reserved, apparently. For Chase. That's all she said when I asked. Oh, that's for Chase. I nodded like I understood. Like I wasn't already watching her eyes flick to the door every 3 minutes. Now, I know what you're thinking. Logan, get to the part where it all goes to hell. Patience, my friend. Part 3 is where the blade twists. But for now, let me leave you with this. I didn't know it yet, but that night wasn't about celebration. It was a setup. The kind that starts with wine and ends with war. The next morning, I found a receipt for 2 drinks and an Uber ride home, none of which I remembered ordering. Turns out heartbreak doesn't always begin with fireworks. Sometimes, it starts with a text from your bank saying, "Thanks for your purchase." Claire was already up when I came downstairs. She was dressed in yoga pants and a hoodie that still smelled faintly of someone else's cologne. Not a brand I use. Not even one I recognize. But I didn't say anything. Not yet. I just poured myself a cup of coffee and asked the kind of question men ask when they already know the answer. Did Chase enjoy the gala? She didn't miss a beat. He always does. That man loves a spotlight. That man. Not my boss. Not my coworker. Not even my friend. That man. Like I'd brought up her secret hobby and she was trying to sound indifferent. I nodded, took a sip of the bitter brew, and stared out the kitchen window like it could offer me moral clarity. You stayed out late, I said. She shrugged. We all went out after. Clients. Networking. You know how it is. I didn't. I'm a software engineer. My idea of networking is fixing someone's laptop and being paid in coffee. But I smiled anyway. Yeah, I said. Sure. I went to work, but my mind never left the kitchen. I kept replaying the way she said we. Who was we? I pictured a table full of fake laughs, slow touches, inside jokes told just loud enough for me not to hear. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I didn't trust myself not to check. At 3:14 a.m., I unlocked her iPad. Now, before you clutch your pearls, I know it's a violation of trust. I also know trust isn't a 1A street, and I had a suspicion that my street had turned into a roundabout. I just wanted confirmation that I was crazy. Turns out I wasn't. There was an email draft. Never sent. titled, "I Hate How Right This Feels." And no, it wasn't addressed to me. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Sometimes the ghost of a message says more than the message itself. I closed the iPad, went to the bathroom, and stared at my own face for 5 solid minutes. Not crying, not breaking, just recalibrating. The man in the mirror looked like someone preparing for a storm. Calm, focused, drenched in clarity. That's when I realized something. This wasn't a bump in the road. This was a fork. And Claire had already chosen her path. She just hadn't bothered to tell me. 3 days later, she texted me. "Can we talk over dinner?" Somewhere neutral. I made a reservation. Somewhere neutral. Like this was a hostage negotiation. The place was called Leora, trendy, overpriced, the kind of place where the plates are hot but the conversation's cold. I arrived 10 minutes early because I wanted to see who she came with. She came alone. But she didn't stay alone. Chase strolled in 3 minutes after her, confident as a guy wearing too much cologne and too little humility. Tall, trim, with that smug athletic look that said, "I've never been punched in the mouth and it shows." He was already smirking before I even stood up. Claire waved to me like this was a reunion. "Logan, this is Chase. I've mentioned him." Oh yeah, she had. About 100 times. The genius strategist from her firm. The guy who just gets her. I sat down. Chase reached out his hand like we were meeting at a charity event. "You've got 2 options," he said calmly. Yes, this man opened with that. Leave quietly, or face me like a man. Claire sipped her wine. Didn't flinch. Didn't even blink. She knew. This wasn't just a dinner. This was a firing squad with flatbread and mood lighting. Now, I'd like to tell you I rose above it. That I offered a dignified exit, tipped my server, and walked out into the night like some Zen monk on a revenge fast. But that's not how it happened. Instead, I asked a simple question. "You want your teeth whole or in pieces?" And then I stood up, leaned across the table, and knocked Chase back into 2009. Plates shattered. Wine flew like a red smoke grenade. Claire screamed, more out of inconvenience than fear. I didn't even see the security until they were on me, dragging me out the front door like I'd tried to rob the salad bar. Outside, standing on the sidewalk with blood on my shirt and glass in my hands, it hit me. That wasn't the beginning of the affair. That was the end. She brought me there to watch me lose. To show me it was over. To humiliate me with a bow on top. I went home to a house that suddenly felt like someone else's. Her perfume still hung in the hallway, but so did something else. Something unfamiliar. Muskio. Sharper. Male. The bed was perfectly made, corners tucked like a hotel. She never made the bed. I sat down, knuckles bleeding, chest hollow, mind racing. Then my phone buzzed. "You didn't have to do that. You embarrassed yourself." "No. Are you okay?" "No. Let's talk." "Just shame." But I wasn't broken. No. That night didn't end me. It woke me up. The next morning, I didn't wake up angry. I woke up clean. There's something oddly calming about hitting the emotional basement. Once the floor collapses under you, there's no more guessing. No more bargaining. Just air, silence, and clarity. Claire didn't come home that night. Or the next one. No apologies. No messages. Not even a passive-aggressive Instagram story I could interpret like a desperate detective. She was just gone, like a magician's assistant sawing through 10 years of marriage and vanishing behind velvet curtains. But me? I went to work. First thing I did was cancel the credit card we shared. I waited until I saw a charge from a luxury spa downtown, likely a post-dinner apology massage courtesy of Chase the Charmless, and shut it down mid-pedicure. Then I changed the locks. Petty? Maybe. But I wasn't feeling polite anymore. You don't invite your husband to his own execution and expect him to leave the welcome mat out. Her key? Decorative now. Next, I called my buddy Nate, divorce lawyer, ex-Marine, and the only man I know who can serve papers with a handshake and a sermon. "Logan," he said when I walked into his office, "you look like someone who just found a rat in his wedding cake." "Close," I said, dropping into the leather chair. But the rat was wearing designer heels. Nate didn't ask many questions. He just nodded and handed me a thick file labeled contingency. That's lawyer speak for "this day was always coming." As he flipped through the tabs, assets, property, prenup clauses I'd forgotten existed, I sat there thinking about all the moments that now felt like jokes. Our wedding song? Better Together by Jack Johnson. Our house Wi-Fi? Clary Anligan forever. Even the damn dog's name was a romantic metaphor. Hemingway. Because he was gruff on the outside, but loyal underneath. That dog now sat by the front door every night, whining quietly, waiting, hoping she'd come back. He didn't know what betrayal was. Lucky him. 3 days later, I got an email from Claire. No subject line, just a PDF of a separation agreement with a quick note. Let's make this easy. No lawyers. No drama. You keep the house. I'll take the apartment near the office. We can sell the cabin next spring. Sell the cabin? That was our place. The place we fixed up together, the place where I proposed. Where she cried and said, I want forever, Logan. Now she wanted to split the profits and take her gym bag boyfriend on a weekend retreat? I stared at that email for a long time, not because it hurt, but because it didn't. I was past the pain. I was in the phase men don't talk about. The strategic phase. The one where your heart quiets down and your mind starts connecting dots. See, I could have just signed those papers. Could have said, fine, take the apartment, and gone on with my life. But the thing is, Claire made one mistake. She assumed I was done. It started small. I sent her a text. Just curious, did you two start before or after our anniversary? She didn't respond right away. Then, you really want to go down that road? What good would it do? Let's just move on. The classic deflect and dismiss tactic. Textbook. Cold as the salad she ignored that night while Chase monologued about crypto. I didn't reply. Instead, I did what any man does when he's done being played. I opened a spreadsheet. Petty? No. Surgical. Every trip. Every girls' night. Every business dinner she claimed she had. I went back 6 months, matching phone records to calendar invites. Google Maps timeline? Thank you, technology. Uber history? Delightfully revealing. Claire was about as discreet as a marching band in a library. And guess what I found? Receipts. Hotel check-ins. A weekend trip that was supposed to be a corporate retreat, but was actually a beachfront Airbnb registered in Chase's name. Her favorite necklace, the one she told me she splurged on as a treat? A gift from him, shipped discreetly to her office. So much for honesty. So much for, let's just move on. But the real jackpot? Her work laptop. She left it at home one day when she came by to pick up clothes. I didn't even have to hack it. Just opened her email client and searched one keyword, Chase. Dozens of messages. Some sweet. Some pathetic. One that said, I feel like he knows. He's watching me. I hate this. Well, she wasn't wrong. That's when I found it. A file. A shared Google Doc titled The Exit Plan. Like some deranged corporate reorg. Inside was a bulleted list. Have dinner with Logan. Let Chase speak. Avoid confrontation. Mention separation, not affair. Keep him calm. Move into new apartment by next Friday. I stared at that screen and let out a low whistle. They hadn't just betrayed me. They'd storyboarded. That's the moment my gears clicked into place. I didn't want to hurt Claire physically, nothing like that. But if she wanted a clean exit, I'd give her a masterclass in clean. The next day, I sent her a message. You're right. Let's keep this simple. I'll sign the papers. But I'd like one final dinner. Closure. No drama. She replied within minutes. Thank you. I think that would be good. I bet she did. She thought I was done playing chess. She had no idea I was setting the board. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I say it's better with a white tablecloth, soft jazz, and a perfectly timed reservation. Friday night, 7:30 p.m. sharp, our old favorite. Maison Rue, the little bistro with dim lighting and overpriced duck confit. The same place where I once surprised her with a sapphire necklace for our anniversary. The same place where she once whispered across the table, I still get butterflies when I see you. Funny thing about butterflies, they die quietly. Claire arrived 10 minutes late, just like always. She had this way of making her entrance feel deliberate, like she was the only one who knew how to use time properly. She wore a dark green dress I'd never seen before, elegant, calculated. The kind of thing you wear when you want to look like you've already moved on. Logan, she said, sliding into her seat like nothing had ever gone wrong. You look good. I nodded. So do you. New dress. She smiled faintly. Chase has good taste. Strike one. The waiter appeared, all suspenders and French pretension. We ordered like we used to 2 glasses of Malbec, sea base for her, steak rare for me. I'm glad we're doing this, she said, settling in. It's nice to have some peace after everything. Peace, I repeated, swirling my wine. Is that what this is? Claire's smile twitched. Look, I know things didn't go perfectly. You invited me to a dinner ambush, I interrupted softly. where your coworker threatened me in public and I got dragged out like a drunk uncle at a wedding. I'd say it was a little shy of perfect. She sighed, adjusting her napkin like it could hide her discomfort. Logan, I'm not here to rehash everything. I'm just trying to move forward. I leaned back, studying her. And by forward, you mean with Chase? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silence was loud enough to hear the truth in stereo. I took a sip of wine. Well, I'm glad to hear you're committed. He must be a special guy to justify throwing away 10 years. Claire's eyes narrowed. This again? No, I said calmly, setting down my glass. Not again. Just one last time. Then I slid a small, square envelope across the table. Thicker than a normal card. Heavy. What's this? She asked. Open it. She hesitated, then peeled it open with one manicured fingernail. Inside, 5 photographs. Printed. Glossy. High resolution. Chase. Another woman. Different city. Same smirk. One photo had them kissing. Another, laughing outside a hotel. Another, arms wrapped around each other inside a yoga studio. The last one? Her toothbrush in a cup beside his. Not Claire's. Her name's Melissa, I said. She's an instructor. Lives in San Diego. Apparently, she and Chase have been dating for 6 months. Claire's face drained like I'd pulled the plug on her confidence. That's impossible, she muttered. He said he left her. He didn't. I talked to her. Sent her screenshots. She was surprisingly cooperative. Apparently, Chase has a habit of spinning one woman while juggling another. She stared at the pictures like they were written in code. Why are you showing me this? I smiled politely. Because I wanted you to know the man you threw our marriage away for isn't even faithful to you. Claire looked up. I sharp. Is that supposed to make me come crawling back? No, I said, leaning in. That's just dessert. She blinked. So what? You hired a private investigator? I chuckled. Please. Don't flatter yourself. It took 3 hours, a LinkedIn search, and Melissa's Instagram feed. The rest? Google Maps, a burner phone, and a few airline records. I paused, watching her face cycle through confusion, denial, and the slow horror of realizing she'd been outplayed. But that's not even the best part, I continued. You know how you told me you wanted the apartment, the cabin, and an easy separation? She nodded cautiously. Well, I said, taking out a second envelope, I'd like to introduce you to our new friend. Court-verified documentation of marital misconduct, pre-separation. I set it beside her untouched entree. Claire frowned. What are you saying? I'm saying I had Nate file first. And in this state? Adultery during marriage means you walk away with a lot less than you were counting on. She stiffened. You can't prove anything. I raised a brow. Can I? The receipts. The emails. The timeline. You forgot your iCloud syncs to the home computer. All those sweet little love notes to Chase. I leaned forward, voice like steel wrapped in velvet. You gave me everything I needed to ruin you legally. All tied up in a neat digital bow. Claire's voice wavered. You're trying to destroy me. No, I said. You did that yourself. I'm just giving you a front row seat. She looked at the papers again, white pages that now weighed more than the entire room. For the first time since this all started, she looked small. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said quietly. It just happened. Affairs don't just happen, Claire, I replied. They're not bad weather. You pack the bag, book the flight, and lie about the forecast. The waiter returned. Would Madam like a box? She didn't answer, just shook her head. We sat in silence until the bill came. I paid, of course. One last kindness. One final favor. As we walked out, I turned to her. Oh, I said, you may want to check Chase's socials. Melissa's pregnant. She stopped cold. Her mouth opened, then closed again. Like a fish pulled from water, just realizing the hook was never about escape. It was bait. I walked away, buttoning my coat, the air crisp and satisfying. That night, I didn't sleep out of sorrow. I slept like a man who had finally fully 1. The Monday after the dinner, Claire didn't show up to work. I didn't need a spy to tell me. The news came to me unsolicited, unfiltered, and oddly satisfying. First came a text from a former colleague of hers, Jenna. We'd only met a couple times at company parties, but apparently I had left enough of an impression to earn some loyalty. Hey Logan, not trying to stir anything, but word's spreading fast. Claire didn't come in today. People are saying something's going on with her and Chase. Again, like it was a series renewal. I responded with a thumbs up. Classy, reserved, not my circus anymore. but I was more than happy to watch from the bleachers. Turns out, Claire's carefully curated world had developed a few cracks. Chase didn't show up to work either. And in an office where everyone pretends not to notice drama but absolutely lives for it, that absence was gasoline on an already lit match. By Tuesday, it was no longer whispers. It was a conference room incident. Apparently, one of Claire's friends confronted her during a meeting. Loudly. Publicly. Something about lying to all of us, and how could you humiliate Melissa like that? The whole team heard. Phones were probably recording before anyone even blinked. By Wednesday, HR was involved. By Thursday, Chase was taking personal leave. And by Friday, Claire was placed on administrative pause for mental health reasons. Translation, she was radioactive. And it all started with a quiet dinner, 2 glasses of Malbec, and a folder full of proof. But here's the part people don't tell you about revenge. It doesn't bring you peace. Not right away. It brings you space. And space can be loud when you're used to filling it with noise. Evenings got strange. The silence of the house felt heavier than when she first left. Not because I missed her, but because I finally had the quiet to hear myself think. The dog stopped waiting at the door. The bed stayed cold, but at least now it was mine. And the kitchen. The kitchen turned from a stage of fake morning pleasantries into a fortress. I started cooking again. Not to impress anyone, just to reclaim it. One night, around 10 p.m., there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Claire standing there. Not broken, not crying, but off, like a painting with too many layers stripped away. She held out a small box. "I came for my things," she said, "but I wanted to give you this." I took the box. Inside was the sapphire necklace I'd given her years ago, the one she wore exactly twice, once at a charity event and once in an anniversary photo she later cropped me out of. "I don't want it," she added. It felt dishonest to keep. I nodded. Probably best. She stood there for a moment too long, like she was waiting for a door to open that no longer existed. "I heard about Chase," she said. "Yeah, me too," I replied. "Congratulations. You picked a real standout." She flinched at that, but said nothing. "He's moved back to San Diego," she continued. "Melissa took him back. She's due in a few months. They're trying to make it work." "Good for them," I said, voice level. Happy endings are rare these days. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, nervous now. "I just wanted to say sorry. For everything. Not because I expect anything. Just because it's overdue." I nodded again. "Well, there it is." Silence stretched between us like an unfinished sentence. "Finally," she said. "You really went scorched earth, didn't you?" I met her eyes. "You set the fire. I just drew the map." She nodded. "Fair enough." And then she left. No hug. No tears. Just the soft click of her heels fading down the porch. I didn't watch her go. That night, I sat on the couch and opened my laptop. No music. No distractions. I started typing. A document titled, "How to Burn Without Smoke." It wasn't about Claire. Not directly. It was about all of it. The unraveling. The silence. The choices men make when they're told to take the high road, while someone digs a tunnel beneath them. I wasn't planning to publish it. But I did. Under a pseudonym, L.J. Rowan. I posted the first chapter to a blog I built that night. By the end of the week, it had 12,000 views. By the end of the month, it had 2.3 million. People didn't just read it. They felt it. Men, women, strangers from cities I'd never visited. People who'd been lied to, humiliated, discarded like they were something seasonal. Suddenly, I wasn't just the guy whose wife cheated on him. I was the guy who turned it into a blueprint. The blog, How to Burn Without Smoke, caught on like dry grass in July. I never named names. Never posted photos. But the people who needed to know, they knew. The chapter called Dinner with Ghosts went viral. It described the moment a man realized his wife had been training him to leave quietly, and how he chose to leave loudly instead. It was surgical, poetic. People called it cathartic, real, dangerous. Claire read it, of course. She called me one night, voice thin with disbelief. "You wrote about me." I didn't flinch. "I wrote about me. You just happened to be there. You've humiliated me." I let that hang for a moment, then calmly replied, "No, Claire. You humiliated yourself. I just gave it a frame." She didn't call again, but she did start showing up in all the wrong places. I'd see her car parked near the gym I went to, a coffee shop 2 blocks from my office. I never approached. I never looked twice. She wasn't haunting me. She was haunting herself. Remember that cabin she wanted to sell? The one I said was ours? Well, I took a little detour with that. Instead of putting it on the market, I renovated it. Not with fancy tile or quartz counters. With purpose. I turned it into a retreat. Not for tourists. For men. Specifically, men going through divorce, betrayal, and the kind of emotional landmines no one teaches you how to defuse. A place to unplug, rebuild, and breathe without the weight of courtroom drama or gaslighting guilt. I called it the Ember House. Within 6 months, it had a waiting list. Some guys came angry. Some came numb. All of them left better. When the press asked me why I started it, I told the truth. Because some people go through heartbreak and try to forget it. I decided to build a house with it. Claire heard about it. I know she did. One of her former friends emailed me anonymously and said, "You built something from the ashes." She's still sweeping the soot. A year after the split, I wrote Claire a letter. Not to win her back. Just to empty the last box in my emotional storage unit. Claire, I forgive you. Not because you asked. Not because you earned it. I forgive you because carrying your betrayal around was making my jacket fit tighter than it needed to. I don't want the old version of you back. I want nothing back. You took something from me. Yes. But I took something too, clarity. I used to think closure came from answers. Now I know it comes from decisions. And I decided. You no longer get to live in my story. You're just the inciting incident. Take care. Logan. I never mailed it. Didn't have to. Sometimes the most powerful words are the ones no one else gets to hear. I met someone new. No fireworks. No forced poetry. Just slow, steady, real. Her name's Lena. She reads more than she talks. She laughs with her whole face. When I told her I'd been divorced, she just nodded and said, "Then you've already survived something harder than me." We take things slow. I don't compare her to Claire. Because Lena didn't break me. And Claire didn't either. She tried. But some men bend like steel. Not to snap. To reshape. People think revenge means fire and fury. Mine came with calm. A locked front door. A journal full of lessons. And a life Claire can only see from the outside now. I don't need her apology. I don't need her regret. All I need is the sound of my own quiet peace. And maybe, every once in a while, the laugh of a woman who didn't meet me at the top, but helped me build the climb.